Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Timmy. In today's tutorial, we're going to be making this beautiful exaggerated eep skirt. If this seems like something you're interested in, then let's get started. For today's tutorial, we're going to be drafting the front pattern first. So from the top of my paper, I marked out 0.5, which is going to stand as my waistline. Then from my band, I'll be using 2 inches. So to take all my measurement, I'll be starting from the 2 inches. I went ahead to take my waist to eep, which is 9, my waist to full length, which is 15. I'm just going to go ahead and repeat the same thing, and then I'll mark a straight line. After ruling out a straight line, I'll label. This is my waist, my hip, and also my full length. From this full length, I'm going to be adding 1 inch allowance just for hemming. So I'm just going to repeat the same thing and I'm going to rule out a straight line. Then I'll also go ahead to label it the hemline. Then on my waistline, I'm going to be dividing my waist measurement divided by 4, that is 32 divided by 4. Then my hip measurement divided by 4, which is 39 divided by 4, which is 9.75. And then I'm going to take the measurement that I have on my hip line and place it on my hemline. I'll then use my curved ruler to connect the points to form the skirt shape. To connect from the hip to my hemline, I'm just going to use the straight ruler. After connecting with the straight line, we're going to be creating the exaggerated eep. So on my hip line, I'm going to go out by 1.5. I'll also do the same on the hemline. Then on my waistline, I'm just going to leave it as it is, and I'm going to use my ruler to connect in this way. I'm going to connect exactly from the waistline that we have before down to the eep. Then I'm also going to connect from my hip down to the hemline. I'm just making sure that I'm getting the lines correct. I'm also going to use my curved ruler to connect in this way. Now after connecting the points, I'm going to be adding my 1 inch sewing allowance all over the pattern. I'll add 1 inch on my eep, 1 inch on my hem, and 1 inch on my waist. I'll then use my curved ruler to connect the points. So after connecting those points, and this is how we have for the front pattern, I'm just labeling my pattern front, and I'll just go ahead and cut it out. And when cutting, you want to make sure that you don't cut out the 0.5 that you added on top of the pattern paper. This is going to stand as just stitching allowance. Now to draft the back pattern, I'm just going to go ahead and mark 1.5 inch from the edge of my pattern. This is going to stand as my zipper allowance. Then to draft the back pattern, I'm just going to bring in the front piece and place it exactly as it is. I'm just going to trace out the lines. I'll just go ahead and connect them with a straight line. Then I'll go ahead and label out the points. So this will be my waist. I'm just going to label it now. The waist, the hip, the full length, and the hemline. Then also I'm going to bring in my pattern paper just to mark the shapes that I have on the side. I'm just going to trace it out as it is. The difference between the front and the back pattern is just the zipper allowance that is added on the back. So this will be all for the back. I'll just label my pattern. This is the back pattern. And then I'm going to add my 0.5 on top. Then I'll just go ahead and connect the lines and I'll cut out my pattern. So this is all for the drafting. This is my front and my back. I'll just go ahead and cut out. To cut out my pieces, I went ahead to fold my fabric into two, and I'm just going to cut it exactly as it is without adding any allowance, because we already did that when we were drafting the pattern. After cutting, I'm just going to take note of my zipper and notch the parts. I'll go ahead and place my front pattern on fold because the front doesn't have an opening. I'll just go ahead and cut it as well without adding any allowance because it's already added on the pattern. So this is all. I'm also going to cut the same thing on my lining piece. My lining piece, the material I used is poly cotton. Then the next thing is to cut out my waistband. My waistband, the length is 34 inches and then the width is 5 inches. I'm just going to use my ruler to connect the points and cut it out. And that will be all for my waistband. I'm also going to iron and interfacing on the fabrics. So this is the material I'm going to use. Now I'm going to go ahead and iron in my paper stay, and this is how it looks. I went ahead to fold the waistband into two, and I also went ahead to iron and interfacing. So after folding the waistband, it gave me two. And for the interfacing, I only ironed it on the main piece. These are my lining pieces. When I cutted it out, I made sure it was 0.5 inches shorter than the main fabric. So now to start joining, I'm going to bring in my lining pieces and I'm going to join them using 1 inch. So I'm just going to place them together, right sides facing each other. And I'm going to take note of my seam allowance, which is 1 inch, and I'll go ahead and stitch by it. I'm also going to do the same thing for the main piece. I'm just going to go ahead and place the front facing each other, and then I'm going to stitch by 1 inch as well. So this is my piece after stitching. I went ahead to press it, and this is the lining piece after stitching. To iron it, I'm going to use my bust hem to iron it so the exaggerated part doesn't go flat. To give the lining the standing effect, I'm just going to sew in my Regeline boning on the seam allowance. So I'm just going to open up the seam allowance and I'm going to place my Regeline boning on both sides just to give it the exaggerated eep. So this is how it looks after stitching in the Regeline boning. For the boning, I went ahead to use my paper tape to cover the edges just to avoid poking. And then I'm just going to give it a good press. After giving it a good press, I'm just going to bring in my main piece and I'm going to go ahead and place them right sides facing each other. And then I'm going to go ahead and open up my seam and I'm going to go ahead and stitch it by 1/2 inch. But before then, I'm just going to use my pin to hold it down so it doesn't keep moving. You also want to make sure that the seam align on both fabric. So this is it after stitching. I'm going to go ahead and open up the seam and go ahead and top stitch. So this was it after I top stitched it to the lining piece. Then I'm just going to go ahead and take my front piece and fold it over with the 1 inch allowance that we left. I'm just going to take note of the 1 inch. After marking this 1 inch, I'm going to go ahead and fold that part. Just watch as I do if you don't understand. So I'm just going to fold it, making sure that the front and the back piece align. Then after it aligns, I'm just going to go ahead and use my pin to just hold it down to stitch by 1/2 inch. So I'm going to be stitching from the 1 inch that I folded in all the way to the top. I'll go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. So we're going to go ahead and stitch by 1/2 inch on both sides. So after stitching, I went ahead to turn it over and give it a good press. So this is how it looks. The next thing now is to insert my band. So I'm just going to open up the seam allowance that I gave on the band, and I'm just going to join it to the waistline of the skirt. After joining, I'll come back and show you how it looks. So this is what we have for the skirt after the waistband has been joined, and this is how it looks on the inside. The next thing now is to insert my zipper, and that will be all for this tutorial. I hope this tutorial was very helpful. If so, do not forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.